And we're live. What's going on, everybody? Happy to have my buddy Brian on today, but we'll give him a proper introduction after I say hello to everybody. Let me see. Community participants. There's the list. All right, let's start off with Big Wrench Catfishing in the house. What's going on, Big Wrench? How you doing? Big Wrench, he was waiting on some stickers from me, Brad. I haven't checked my P.O. box in ages. I get there, I forgot to put a stamp on the stickers I sent him.
I've did that before. It's easy to do.
Yeah, I just use that P.O. box as a return address, so I apologize for that. He did message me and tell me he got it today. Channel member and crew member Brian B. Catfish in the house. Happy belated birthday again. Brian had his birthday this weekend. He even put a fish on the bank. I noticed I did say bank. He doesn't like when I remind him of that. There's Lynn over at Catfish Fever and Outdoors. There's channel supporter, crew member, Crappie Dave Fish on. There's crew member Adventures with Robin C. How you doing, Robin? Fishing with Big Mike in the house. How you doing, Mike? My buddy Dawson from Fishing with Squirrel. Check out his channel. He's got some really, really good sonar information for you there. Freddie's Outdoor Adventures crew supporter. What's going on, Freddie? Of Freddie's Outdoor Adventure, FOA Rods. That's what it is. I had a brain fart. There's Avid Fisherman. He's a crew member. He's also a supporter. There's Chris Hooks and Hammocks. What's going on, Chris? He's a crew member. There's Jello, JG Studio in the house. Justin's Fishing Fetish, crew member and supporter. Thanks, Justin. Say hello to Gabby for me. I appreciate you. There's my buddy LG Bass. What's going on, Tom? Crew member. I think he knows, but I should warn him. Chad's coming your way. You've been warned, Tom. There's Sampy. What's up, Mike Sampson? There's Palmetto Cats. What's up, Kevin? How you doing? Parker Pursuits, Bass Assassin. What's up, Parker? Good job this weekend, my friend. There's Kenneth Powell, Takedown Catfishing. How you doing, Kenny? Sorry I missed your show last night. I actually got some sleep. There's channel supporter, Team Snag and Whiskers. Dustin, how you doing, bud? Setting hooks and crossing eyes as a crew member. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you, bud. Ryan's a local fisherman here. I hope to fish with him this year. Look forward to that happening. We got to make that happen, Ryan. Uptown Chrissy Brown in the house. Let's see if I missed anybody here. Go through Bob Gaines. How you doing, Bob? Dale Hayslip. What's up, buddy? Dink over Stink Catfishing. I got an invite to join his group on Facebook. I did so. Look forward to seeing some cool posts from there. And other than that, Wabash Nate in the house. How you doing, Wabash? Let's see if I missed anything. Look at this. All these great people have been members. Let me shout them out here real quick. Let's see what we got here. 21 months from Hooks and Hammocks. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you. Says, hello, Mark and Brad, the Stinker Man. Freddie's Outdoor Adventure says, ooh, he gifted 5 Catfish and Crappie memberships. Thank you, Freddie. I appreciate you.
Awesome,
hey, Freddie, I really appreciate you. Hey, those rods, they fit in my garage in the rod holders, just so you know, but I was playing with them today.
Yeah.
LG Bass, he says, good evening, Mark and Brad. He's been a member for 20 months. And there's Adventure with Robin C. She's been a member for 3 months. Says, where is the warmer weather? You are not kidding. We'll talk about that during the show here soon. Fish and Freedom, member for 10 months. He says, what's up, Mark, Brad, evening, everyone in chat. Everybody's saying hello. Hooks and Hammocks, 21 months. Hello, Mark. Brad, I read that. There's Freddy's. LG Bass, good evening, Mark and Brad. Robin, see, I'm kind of scrolling through the chat here. Welcome to the Catfish and Crappie podcast. My name is Mark, and tonight's guest is Brad Caudill. Caudill or Caudill? It's Caudill, right?
Caudill. Yeah.
Caudill. I love me some dill pickles, but that's got nothing to do with it.
That's the easiest way to explain it to people sometimes, though, too.
Good stuff. So we're going to talk sinkers. We're going to talk there's Monty Sheets. We're going to talk some we're going to talk some fishing. I started looking up fishing news articles, Brad, and I was going to grill you on some hot topic ones, some kind of controversial ones, and I couldn't find any of them this week. So that's good. So stay tuned. So stay tuned for that, folks. So we're going to start doing that from once in a while with our guests when I come across some really cool news articles, whether they're controversial or not. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Brad. Where are you from, bud?
I'm actually from Ohio, born and raised. I've been in this little area for going on 37 years, so been here for a while.
Ohio is my second home. Ohio. I was told by Miss Betty Jean that if I call it anything else, she's going to whoop me, and I think she's just the person to do it. So
I wouldn't want to give her an opportunity to make it worthwhile.
We met at the Ohio meet and greet. It was a pleasure meeting you and the whole gang out there. There's a lot of good people out in Ohio, definitely.
Oh yes.
Some of the people that stand out obviously is Chrissy and Ernie and all them. You got the Rudolph brothers, Eric and Curtis. They're good people. I met so many people.
Oh yeah,
Skip,
there's a lot of people there.
Skip, Zach. I met Justin out there. That was a good time. Justin's good people. There's a lot of good people, and you guys really take your fishing seriously, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on my show, Brad, because me and Brad talk in a lot of online chats and stuff, and he's as diehard as it gets as far as I'm concerned. Not that any of you in chat or listening to the podcast aren't, but certain people I can kind of tell when they have a passion for the sport, and Brad definitely is one of them. So you're from Ohio. How'd you get into fishing? Where did it all start, bud?
Oh well, we've actually, like, for me, actually, I've taken my grandparents and great grandparents and mom and dad. They all went fishing, and we've always done catfishing. So, unlike a lot of people, we learned catfishing before we learned anything else, and we'd use, worms, whatever we could get. We never really used much live bait or fresh bait, so we learned to fish the hard way, I guess, if you want to call it that, because that's what it seems like it is now. Looking back on it,
that's pretty much the way it all starts. I got into fishing in a very similar way, and those times and those days are near and dear to my heart, definitely. So much that I'm sure the people in chatting on a podcast are tired of hearing from about them. So I'm gonna spare you guys that story again. You know what I forgot to do? Brad, I forgot to shout out my sponsors. Let me do that real quick. I need to shout out Fishbrain. Thank you for supporting the channel. Amped Outdoors. Matthew's a good man. He just got me a lithium battery to run my electronics. Uncle Lou's Tackle is always. Uncle Lou's a good dude. He supports a lot of people. He's a good guy. I need to thank out Jimmy and JT over at Port Barrington Marina. And last but not least, Colton over at Multibar. Colton's a good guy. As far as I'm concerned, those are the best rod holders on earth. And I just talked to him a little bit via messenger, and I'm getting not only do they make rod holders, they also make electronic mounts. So I'll be getting them out for the front of my boat for that live scope, which I do have done. So the boat's going to be back in the water, folks. If you're a channel member, I will be doing, not that I'm doing lives for pay or anything, but I'm going to start doing lives for my channel members. Every time I'm out filming, I'll do an hour or so live. So just keep an eye out. Make sure your bell notification's rung, and we'll just fire up the phone or the camera and just go on there for you guys. You guys want to come in, you're always more than welcome. So as far as going live, on a regular basis, I don't know how much of that I'm going to be doing, but I'm going to make sure that I try to give you guys, channel supporters, some content at least that way. So I hope you understand, and you get what I'm trying to do, and it's not pay for play. It's just to hang out with you good people, and I really appreciate the channel support. So I think that summed it up. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I'd say you did a pretty good job.
I try. I don't know. I don't always feel that way, but that's another story for another day. So what's your favorite fish to chase, Brad?
Normally, we mainly fish catfish.
Yeah.
We do a lot of bait for bluegill. We do fish for a lot of bluegill just because they work so good. Creek chubs.
This time of year, my flathead love what I call candy bar baits, and creek chubs and suckers fit the bill. Small suckers, anything that they can slurp down their throat, they're eating this time of year. And I do better on those than a lot of other baits. Some guys swear by cut carp and stuff this year, but I've always had good luck, at least in recent years, with those kind of baits. I need to thank Dink over Stink Catfishing for the $5 super chat. He says, always a great show, Art. Y'all make sure to hit that thumbs up. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
I think a lot of the bait situation kind of depends on where you're at, because sometimes they could be in the water, but it may not be a good bait, because like carp around us does not do good. And the creek chubs, though, their creek chubs are like gold when you can get them. I mean,
I had an awesome creek chub spot here at the local town, and they had a big construction project like all my bait spot. We'll talk about that too. And they had a construction project. This bait spot was right in the middle of downtown, small little town square over there. And I'd go fish this creek, and I get a whole bucket full of them chubs, man. But they did this project, and they're gone. I don't know what happened there. I think it just I don't. I think they changed something somewhere upstream, somewhere where they used to where they used to come from, and now they're gone. So
they might come back to it. I've seen it before where they did some work, and then a couple years down the road they get comfortable back in that spot again, and then
I hope so. I got a green sunfish, a greeny spot like that too, where some biologist came in there and said that the place was way overgrown, super overgrown. Not even gonna lie, to the point of where it was hard to get a bait even in the water. It was that bad.
Wow.
So they hired some company and some biologists to come in there, and they just killed everything off. And that spot was a big loss for me. I could get 30 green sunfish in 30 minutes, no lie. They're not the biggest ones, but that was definitely a good bait spot.
Yeah, I know. We got this little creek, and you can almost, if you're athletic enough, you can jump from one side to the other, and we pull bluegill and creek chub out of it. 30 minutes, we can have enough bait for a trip overnight. So
I got a little creek here that I like to fish. Actually, I did a live stream from there, like a 40-minute live stream. I think I filled a bucket up with a bunch of bluegills, and that to date is probably my second best live stream. I actually went live while I was there, so there is definitely an audience out there for bluegill and creek fishing.
Oh yeah, and trying to find them. The little low head dams are usually, if they're not a real big area in a low head dam, if you can get to the lower side of it or just above the upper side, they usually hang out on either side of it. Great spot for bait.
Yeah, over here on the Fox, most of the dams are low head dams, at least the ones that are like south of me. And yeah, further on down, they're all low head dams. A couple of them are pretty good walleye and muskie spots too, if you go way south here.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we chase them. I mean, my bait fishing takes up just as much time practically as my flathead fishing. I ain't gonna lie. I spend a lot of time getting good bait together and stuff.
Your live scope will help your bait situation some.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope to figure out with them. I'm not gonna lie. I'm bad. I have some balance issues. So throwing a cast net out of my boat is not something that I want to do time after time after time after time. But I'll give it 5 to 10 throws if I know there's bait there.
Yeah. Well, it'll let you be more efficient for your time throwing it, which is kind of key when you're trying to get to where you want to fish. I like to be out there before time to start than to be when they're starting to bite.
Ryan over at Setting Hooks and Cross Eyes, he says, what rig do you use for chubs?
Carolina, same way. It is. Depending on how big they are is where I hook them. I try to keep them as live as possible.
I just use a piece of red worm on like a 1/32 or 1/16 ounce jig head.
Oh yeah. Actually, I sometimes I'll use a slip rig, or actually I got some jigs off of Lyle, and that pink and white one he made was every cast or every other cast I was pulling one in a pretty decent size, and you actually had to go pretty quick. You'd think they wouldn't be that fast, but man, you can really reel down on an open face and they'll hammer
it. Bait fishing is so fun. I need to make this announcement too. Sorry to interrupt you, but the Panfish Nation Championship Round 1, which is going to be on my channel, I moved the date, folks. So go on to my main page and it'll be listed on there. I think I changed the date too. Let me double check here real quick. It's nothing like being prepared for what's your show on your own darn channel. That is going to be, it was moved to April 30th, folks. So if you want to get in on that, the rules will get posted probably tonight or tomorrow on the Panfish Nation Facebook page. There's simple rules. Contact me at 1v1. That's the number 1, the letter V1 at catfishandcrappie.com and say you want to enter. We got room for 8 people to fish that. And the top 2 get moved to the championship round and so on. The rules will be self-explanatory, but I know people were waiting for the change in date. I'd made a mistake, and the first date that I picked was just a date that worked for me. And it turns out that the Tennessee meet and greet that is that weekend, and he's in chat here. Kenneth Powell said he was interested in being in it, but he felt not so sure about fishing it in strange waters, which I can understand. So there you go. April 30th, everybody, it's been moved to. Parker says tiny cork, little wire hook, and a red worm. Yep. I like them tiny little thill bobbers. They work pretty good for me.
Yeah, so with Parker killing some bait fish last weekend, you definitely want to listen to some nice tips from Parker's bait service. That's for sure.
You know, when I first met Parker, somebody that's a friend of his and mine, probably a little better friend of his, said that Jerry had a horseshoe in his butt when it came to hunting and fishing. So I always gave him a hard time about that. But after watching him get almost 100 pounds of bass in the kayak, I think it was 5 or 6 hours, whatever it was.
It's still impressive.
It was impressive. He found him, I believe he found him on a rock pile. He was fishing Baldwin here in Illinois. And he was just slaying them one after another.
Oh yeah, he was.
That's a lot of bait fish. I mean bass. Sorry, folks.
Sorry.
Check your local regulations on what you can use for bait. You ever use bullheads in your area? Well, you're a channel cat fisherman, right? More than flatheads?
Yeah, we got both in our waters, and there's times where we do target the flathead because there's times a year that they're a lot easier to pin down to certain areas, which we found out from fishing it for as long as we have. You can really nail down some areas, but last year we kind of were scouting around a little more to try to see if we could find some new areas that they were in. So we're going to continue doing that this year, hopefully.
You know, there's always the talk about, you know, blues, flatheads, and channel cats as far as catfish goes in the community. And I've been giving that a kind of a lot of thought, and I've come to the assumption that, you know, blue cats are for tournaments. Flatheads are for the fanatics. They're for the crazy people. And channel cats are for everybody, man. If you don't love catching channel cats, if you can't, you know, get a worm on a hook or stink bait, or even, you know, God forbid you use a little chicken, whatever it is, or some cut bait, and have fun catching some channel cats. And
they're always fun to catch, especially, you know, a lot of people, when they think of channel cats, they think of, you know, 2 to 8 pounds. And when you get into the bay, you get 20 plus, and when they hit that 20-pound mark, they're a whole complete different fish. I'll tell you that.
They're a different animal. I mean, we talk about the channel cats up here in Wisconsin all the time at that magical place. You guys know what it is in chat. But there's something about seeing like a 15 to 20-pound channel cat doing tail stands in 3 feet of water will really get your blood pumping. They really do.
As soon as they hook up, it's a fight. Once it's hooked up, they'll peel the line out just like a flathead will. And at the 20-pound mark, they probably put up a better fight longer than a flathead. And I love catching flathead too, but it's not the same fight. Just like it's not the same fight for a blue.
Yeah, you can feel. I know. I'm not a big. I don't have blues here, so I'm not really familiar with them. But I know the difference definitely between a channel cat and a flathead. Like that channel cat's got that jerking motion. That'll definitely is a lot different. Where you got the big, you know, head swings on a flathead and and stuff. But they're a good time. So tell me a little bit. You mentioned Sandusky or the Bay right there. I imagine you were talking about Sandusky. Do you get a chance to fish there a lot?
Actually, last year was actually our first year. We fished off the bank. Like I did once when we were like 6 or 7. I remember fishing it off the pier section, and we caught some fish, but they weren't nowhere near 20 pounds. But this year we actually got to fish off the boat and kind of we actually went there the night before because the waters that we normally fish was blown out and everything was up in the creek channels, and you can't get a boat in there without tearing something up. So we went to the bay to fish for Avid's channel cat tournament, and we were just scouting around and sonaring some stuff out, fishing some stuff, trying some new stuff because the bay was completely new to us. We caught on real quick to where the fish like to hang out. And I mean, there's a lot of room to fish. I mean, when it's hot in there and that into April, March, they start kicking in, they'll wear you out.
Yeah, you slayed them on Avid's channel cat tournament, didn't you?
Yeah.
How many did you guys end up with?
I don't even remember. I just knew I had to take my hoodie off because it was so slimed. I couldn't stand to be in it anymore. I'm like, it's got to go off.
Yeah, channel cats, they're not as slimy as blues. I got, like I said, limited experience with them, but them blues, man, they'll mess you up. They'll make you look like you came off an adult movie set when you're done.
Yeah, just
can't believe I just said that. Sorry, folks. Eric over at Super Smurf, Eric Fishing says, I think channels fight harder because they're afraid they're gonna get eaten. Do you eat fish, Brad? Are you a fish eater?
I do occasionally. I hardly ever keep any. Usually maybe once or twice a year we'll set some back and we'll do a fish fry or something, and we'll have them that way. But
you got to do that from time to time.
Yeah,
even if it's bring a small eater home to a neighbor or something. I'm a firm believer that fish were put here by the man above to feed us.
And like that little river that we normally fish, there might be 3 catfish anglers that actually have boats, and one of them's sometimes out there. I mean, and they don't even never fish the same area as we do, and you get a couple people from the bank, but no one really pressures it. No one hardly takes anything out of it. So it's always like we always find 6-8 pounders. If you start getting 10 or better, you're doing pretty good. And we've landed a couple 12s and 14s out of it. So I mean, it's got numbers and quality.
Well, I'm a firm believer in, and I like to push responsible harvest. I mean, I got like set of rules for myself. I mean, crappie, it's game on after spawn. As far as catfish goes, channel cats, 5 pounds and under, those are the size that I keep. Flatheads, I do not. That's just me. Never had a blue. Walleye, it's game on as long as they fit in that slot and I'm within the crew limit. Things like that. So
that's kind of the way I am.
Yeah, I some of these stories that I've come across in the past, these news stories that I'm going to start incorporating into the show. You hear about people having like 1,500 bluegill in their freezer.
Yeah,
that's a little out of hand. You get in a lot of trouble for that. So I actually know a local guy here that I had no idea he was doing this, but he got fined like $1,800 for doing something like that, and they took his fishing license away for 10 years. So remember that when you go to break them rules, folks. You don't want to.
Yeah, it's always cheaper to buy your fishing license than get a ticket because the license are $30, $20-$30. And that fine starting out's 100, like for Ohio, I think it's like $150. So
I got one buddy who was casting and shad here that the warden came out of the bushes, checked his bucket, and he had 4 baby crappie, and that was a hefty fine. I don't remember exactly how much that was, but it cost him an arm and a leg.
That's one reason too. Bluegill in our area are so easy to catch, and the crappie are so much harder. So it doesn't even make sense to even go after the crappie because they get a lot of pressure here. Well, that's a nice crappie.
Yeah, we get being, right outside of Chicago, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of people that just fish. So granted, we're up a little further north. So our crappie aren't as big as if you go down south. You can get lucky, and there's some big ones. Like some kid just got a 3.5 pounder at the one lake I fish at on the chain up here. And that really got my going. One person catches a big one there every year. Hopefully one of these years it'll be me, but that's another story. And
I've caught a couple in Tennessee that were way bigger than anything we have here. They were well over. They're probably pretty close to 2 pounds.
Nice. I haven't
They're
caught an
fun.
over 2 pounder since I was a kid. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Hopefully this year we'll do that. I kind of reset my PB for that. So I'm getting
Oh,
behind
yeah.
on cat. Let me get caught up here real quick. Parker Pursuit says channels, pound for pound, the meanest catfish. That one stuck out to me because I have a theory that, you know, they're very opportunistic feeders. They're grab and run. So
Oh, yes, they are.
they got to be aggressive to survive.
That 31-pound flathead took out hardly anything of drag, and the 22-pound channel that I caught last year was peeling line, and it was set up the same way, and it was ripping some line out. I'm like, well, you definitely got something worthwhile here.
You know, when we're fishing up north and we get onto those monster channel cats, it's funny because you'll hear the splash. They'll pull that bait up to the surface before you know you got them hooked, and then all of a sudden they start pulling that drag, that erratic drag pull of theirs. So that'll get you going. Yeah,
especially
Roger
in shallow water.
Yeah, shallow water does it too. Roger over at Muskrat Adventure, Sandusky Bay is amazing.
Roger knows all about it.
I'll let you know when I get out there. We'll hook up, Brad. I got it.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking about doing a channel cat tour this year, or a catfish tour or channel cat tour this year. So that would be cool. I don't think that's going to happen. Josh over at Catfish Weekly, he kind of made a comment that I asked what zip code it's in, and then when I find out how far it is, I end up not going. He's absolutely right. Ain't even gonna lie. There's Chad over at Fields to Water. He says Brad is my hero.
Hey, Chad actually catches fish in Ohio. I've seen it once or twice.
You sure that wasn't D?
No, it was all him. D was helping him instead of him helping D. It's kind of scary sometimes.
Kirill says, and if you understood Mark's reference, we can be friends. I think I know there's Cody Robinson. What's going on, Cody? How you doing, bud? He's another flathead guy who fishes with Jonathan from Hooked on time to time. He's in Central Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'll get to meet him when him and Jonathan are out here one time. So that'll be cool too.
That'd be pretty cool.
Creel says we can use whatever we want as long as it's caught using lethal methods. There's a topic to talk about here. You know, in Illinois, the rules are kind of unclear. You know, if you meet the legal creel and size limits, it's unclear that you can or you can't use them for bait. How about in Ohio?
Yeah, I mean, I think they leave them vague on purpose because sometimes you got to kind of read in between the lines, and it's you know, up for interpretation, as I call it sometimes. Because until I ask the ODNR what it is, you aren't going to know. And sometimes they don't even know. Sometimes it takes them a couple days to get back to you.
Or they just write a ticket and they don't even bother. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, usually if I have a question, I'll go up and ask them because they're pretty well established in this area that I can drive west or south and find them in 10 minutes.
Going through chat here real quick. I'm way behind here. Way behind. You know, I got a couple of DNR people that I've talked to in the past. I haven't seen them in a couple of years. Actually, I haven't seen a DNR agent. I'm jinxing. Knock on wood. Hopefully it stays that way. No offense if you're listening, folks. I haven't seen one in like 3 years. Hopefully it stays that way. So
I seen 3 just today.
Just today?
Just today.
Well, here on the Fox, I think we got 2 agents that cover 24 miles of river. Yeah. So seeing them here or there. So Cody says, Mark would love to, man. That'll be awesome to do that. There's Uncle Lou in the house. What's going on? Uncle Lou, how are you doing?
What's up, Uncle?
Jesse's Outdoor Addiction. He's another local guy I need to fish with. Jesse, we'll get out to Rock Cut. We'll fish over there. I hope to be out there in the next week or so, as soon as this weather straightens out. So there we go. I think I'm caught up with chat. Sorry about that, folks. I appreciate y'all for being here. Yeah, so I mean, those rules that are open to interpretation are the ones that'll get you every time. So always be polite. Always be polite to DNR people and ask them questions. I'm a big proponent of becoming friends with them because they can give you a lot of information that can help, you know.
Yeah. And they'll let you know. They'll let you know on stuff that might be coming up and changes on on the rules or the laws of certain things too, way before you ever see anybody talk about legislation or anything on it. Sometimes they know a lot more than what the average person does on what's going on behind the scenes. So it's nice to get those little tips.
It is, you know, and if you get to be really good friends with them, if you got, you know, a little bit of something to share with them, whether it's I carry these bags of trail mix with me whenever I'm fishing. I always got like 3 or 4 of them. And the one guy loves the stuff as much as I do. I'll give him a bag of that and he'll start talking about where all the fish are at and stuff. So,
oh yeah, they know.
Wayne, host with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate you, my friend. He's a big supporter of a lot of stuff. Good deal. Yeah. And there's P&B Catfishing with Paul Boyd. He's a crew member. Need to shout out the crew members too. So yeah, bait's a pretty big topic. I mean, you could go on and on. That's how involved it is for us catfishermen, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's
I was always trying new stuff to land some more bait, because the quicker you can get it, the more time you have to fish for what you're actually fishing for.
You know, if you have the room, folks, I highly and you fish a lot, I recommend you get a bait tank. I mean, the initial cost isn't so cheap. Depending on what you get, you can do an at-home thing, find you a tank on Facebook Marketplace or on Craigslist or something like that, like I did. And once you figure out the filtration and stuff, it's good to have that bait available all the time. I will add one caveat to that. You know, bait out of a bait tank's never as good as bait caught fresh. I don't care what you say. They're good for maybe a couple of days before they start going downhill a little bit. Would you agree with that, Brad?
Yeah. We actually hand dug a pond, a little koi pond, and we put them in there. And I mean, it keeps them healthier longer.
On Facebook of all places, go figure, right? Somebody had posted that what is it? It was not Salvation Army, but Goodwill had a 100-gallon stock tank for $10.
Wow.
He's like, I didn't have a truck, so I couldn't pick it up. So what did I do? I hopped in my truck. I went down there. I bought it for $10 and brought it home. That guy's still mad to me, I think. Mad at me to this day. Brad, I ain't kidding.
That's a good deal.
And then I bought like a cheap old filter off of a pond filter off of Amazon. I actually have a review video that I did, one of my first videos on my channel, which works fairly well. I do have to at least flush that filter out every couple of weeks, but it sure takes a lot less time to rinse that filter out than it does to drive to one of my bait spots. And those are getting few and far between these days. I got to get better. I'm driving right now, or not now, but last year, in order to get bullheads, it was an hour and 10 minutes each way to go get them.
Yeah. So sometimes we go 20 minutes the wrong direction to go 45 minutes back. But sometimes that's how it works when bait's hard to get. When closer you get to summer, it seems like that's when you start having trouble getting shad, and we try to get our bluegill or creek chubs to supplement into that.
You know, heat of summer, bluegill work for me really well. Mm-hmm. Live bluegill, bigger the better. The bigger they are, the more I'm keeping the channel cats off of them. I do love channel cats, but when I'm flathead fishing, they're bycatch. I'm not looking for that. And bluegill seems to work. They stay on the hook real well. They got that tough hide, so they work for me. I also like baby carp, but baby carp are hard to come by. That's a trip to the dam with a cast net, and you're lucky if you get 2 of them. Do you ever try using them?
And we don't hardly ever get them. Usually the ones we get are, 7 or 8 pounds in the cast net, and you're fighting and getting them out of the cast net as much as you were getting them into it.
Last time I was cast netting for baby carp, I got a 26-inch walleye and then a 21-inch smallmouth in my cast net.
Oh yeah, trust me, I've got my fair share of crappie and bluegill this year from the cast net. The guy sitting there beside me fishing, and just sit there and looks, and I'm like, I gotta throw it back.
Gotta throw it back. Me, I get all butthurt thinking, why couldn't I catch this on hook and line? You know, I've been looking for a 20-inch smallmouth for a long time, and here I'm getting them in the damn cast net. At least I know they're in there. So
well, the bad thing is sometimes with the cast net, there's times where I guarantee you that they're trophy size fish for like a Penn, Ohio, very easily, and you're like, man, I've got to throw this back. I'm like, I caught it, but catching it and then catching it the right way are two different things.
Yeah, I don't even if I follow hook a fish, I don't even count it, and I'm not even competing with anybody but myself.
Yeah,
I saw Spencer; he got a 70-pound flathead that he follow hooked, and he didn't count it, and I couldn't agree more with that. If that happened to me, I wouldn't count it either. I'd take a picture with it. Oh, I'd take a picture.
Oh, I would too, in a heartbeat.
But I let everybody know that I follow hooked it. It's just the way it is.
You don't always get to see those fish like that very often. So when you do, you might as well take advantage of it in the best way you can, the right way that you can.
Man, holding a 70-pound flathead would be awesome.
Oh yeah,
that'd be worth the backache. I'm telling you. That big one that I caught, that was a pain. That was a pain away and hold up for pictures and stuff. That was pretty exciting. I can't even imagine what like 100-pound blue would be like. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
No wonder them guys sit at the back of their boat and they got them on their legs, holding them up, like a big old baby back there, big old fat baby.
Well, the way them blues wind up, you don't really want to be on the wrong end of the slap of that tail when they get that big. Heck, that'd be worse than your old lady hitting you.
I've gotten enough nut shots in my time to know to be careful and watch that. A lot of time you move one of your legs up in front of you a little bit, kind of stay at an angle, you'll avoid that. Or getting crapped on by a catfish. That's happened so many darn times.
Yeah.
That's so nasty, nasty, nasty. Anyways, Uncle Lou says old chest freezer and an Inkbird brewing temp controller will then figure out your own filtration. That's a great idea. Those thermostat controllers are cool as heck. That's the biggest problem I have. That was my next step with a bait tank, was going to a chest freezer. I just don't have the room as of yet in the garage, but you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got in chat here. We're turning this into the bait show, but that's okay.
And it's a big part of fishing in general.
Roger from Muskrat Adventures said, do not use galvanized deep freezer. It will pit and leak with the salt in the water. Yeah, I use bait right in my bait tank. It turns it blue. I got to come up with something else. I just set up my we're not going to talk about that here. So hold on a second. We got a question here from LG Bass here. LG Bass says, Brad, if a guy throws out 4 rods with only one having a spook, which rod will get all bites? Asking for a friend.
I bet you it's the one with the spook. We had a little game going on the dock the other day because regulators was like, I ain't using these spooks. They don't do any good. They don't help you catch any more fish. And they didn't catch any fish that night. And they were all using spooks. And LG was fishing the dock a day or two after, and they were using spooks and using rods without spooks. And the only one that caught a fish was the only one that had a spook on it. So
they were feeding up in a water column.
Yeah. So. Which happens a lot.
Here, this is what I've learned. I don't claim to know anything except what I've experienced. And what I've learned is that a certain time of year here, the flatheads feed a little higher in the water column. I know that sounds funny being that the Fox River is, 4 to 6 feet, but it does make a difference.
Oh yeah,
so
it does.
I'll have one out with a spook, also known as a Demon Dragon, also known as Triple City Anglers float. I'm not sure I got that name right, but you guys get the idea. They're pretty much Zara spooks that they take the hooks off and they use them as floats. And I'll definitely notice a difference. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I don't hardly ever use them in lake scenarios though. That's the only thing.
Yeah. I do when we're dragging, just to keep the hook up off the bottom, to keep it from snagging up. And that's it's not really to get it that far up off the bottom. It's just to get it enough to clear everything you're going through.
Yeah, you pretty much have to use it when you're dragging baits. You can't get around it, which I mean, it only makes sense. If you guys listen to the podcast at home, dragging baits is when you use, whether it's a Santee Cooper or a Carolina rig, and you use a float between your your weight, which is usually a dragon weight, which kind of looks like a long extended. We'll get into the weights here in a minute here, Brad, because Brad's the man to talk to. A long extended weight that kind of glides over any obstacles underwater. Then you would have a little bit of leader to one of these spooks that float underwater. Then you have another piece of leader that's connected to your bait, your hook and your bait. And the idea is that float, that spook, keeps your hook from getting snagged when you're rolling over snags. So that's the whole idea in a nutshell. That's the short story. Now, why I mentioned the weights, because Brad, you're owner of Tidel Weights and Sinkers, aren't you, Brad?
Yep.
How did you get into that? Tell us a little bit about Tidel Weights and Sinkers, and then we'll go into how you got into it.
Okay. Well, I actually just some of the prices in our area, some of the bait shops that carry what you needed were pretty expensive on some of the sizes that you'd use. And that, if anybody knows anything about fishing dams, if you fish in front of any dams, you're bound and determined to lose gear. It's just how it works. There's so much rock, so much debris. They're like the collector of everything. So even your terminal tackle will be down there at some point in time if you fish it enough. So we just started making sinkers because of the expense, and got a 10-pound pot and a couple molds, and been doing it ever since.
Yeah, it kind of took off on you, definitely. I know a lot of people are ordering from you, and I know that you're up late whenever I see in some of these live streams and stuff. You're up late saying, I'm making sinkers, but what's up, everybody? How you doing? And it's at ridiculous times. I mean, we were talking at like 4 a.m. last weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was busy.
Yeah,
with it.
4 a.m, go to bed for a little bit, get back up and start in again is usually the routine. So,
when I was a kid, I used to get paid like a nickel for every mold that I would pour from my neighbor, Mr. Zink. Maybe you should find yourself a kid that's willing to do that if they exist these days.
Yeah.
Get you helped out. I know they had over at Limits Tackle, I know he uses vets and stuff to helps him tie baits and stuff. So, I mean, that's just some ideas that come off. And I'm always trying to think of how to not improve, but streamline things, if anything. So,
so,
how many orders are you filling a week, if you don't mind me asking?
It just depends on the week.
Yeah.
Some weeks are more. I mean, it ain't nothing to get a couple orders a day. So
there's a slogan for you from Chris over to Hooks and Hammocks. He says, Brad's sinkers are guaranteed to sink.
They're guaranteed to be above advertised weight of the sinker. I'll tell you that. I check them. I periodically check them.
Yeah.
Just because I want to make sure that someone's getting exactly what they ordered. So if it's a 6, it better be 6 or higher, or it ain't getting shipped out. So,
and I know I've ordered a bunch. Every year I place an order with Brad to replenish my supply. And I know that a lot of guys, especially in the catfish world, they're using mono. And when they're using mono, let's say they're using a 30-pound main line, they like that 80-pound. They like that 80-pound leader, don't they?
Yes. So, I mean, we're bad for it too. Sometimes we'll run a 50-pound main, and then when we're fishing heavy cover, we want that abrasion resistance. So we'll move up from that, that 50-pound mono leader to an 80-pound leader, just to make sure that, if it hits that metal, you got at least an opportunity to get it. But if it hits it more than a few times, you're going to lose it probably anyways. So.
Yeah, if you're fishing around trash and stuff, that's going to happen. I don't care what kind of line you're using, whether it's mono or braid or even some of the guys that run the fluoro and stuff. So
it all cuts the same.
Yep, and I don't think we're going to be using. I would really hate to use like a steel leader for catfishing, especially if I'm dragging baits.
No,
I know one of the big tackle companies uses them on their spook setups, and they're nice. But as soon as I get them, I cut them off, and I just use a mono leader for that. So
yeah, and I'm the same way too.
Yeah, that being said, that's how people are losing all of their weights and stuff at the bottom by having that setup.
Yeah.
Not that it's wrong or anything; it's just a fact of life. So.
Yeah, so sometimes certain situations dictate on what you need to do to be successful, and you do it. You accept the loss for what it is, because you know it could happen.
And breaking that, I think Chris was saying today in the live stream that he moved up to a 40-pound mono. Man, it's a pain in the butt to break 30-pound mono. I run 30-pound mono on all my guest, aka loaner rods that I have here, and I hate when they get all snagged up. It's always a pain to break.
Yeah, you fight it.
Yeah,
that's why I don't use that 80-pound leader line too often, because even though it's rated for more, you're breaking you're for sure to break your main line, but that 50-pound J braid, it's almost too much to even earn it at 50. I've seen other 50-pound line that breaks 100 times easier than that stuff does.
Yeah, and same with that you mentioned J braid. Same with that Suffix 832. I can't talk well enough. But that being said, I've pulled logs out of the river with that stuff, Brad.
Yeah,
it's like I pulled tires. I've been dragging baits, and I've pulled a tire out of the bottom of the river. Couldn't get it to break. It was a nightmare. But usually, if you give it a good tight pull, braid will break. Where mono has that stretch. So
yeah.
Bugman's got a comment here. How you doing, Bugman? Brad's products are top notch quality, and he makes sure he gets what you want. If you are getting your lead anywhere else, you are paying too much. Who could argue with that?
Yeah. Thank you, Bugman.
Wayne says, I used to stop at tire shops and ask them for old tire weights. That's how I got my lead for my weights and jigs. You know, that used to be true. Not so much these days, right, Brad?
Yeah, they're trying, eventually going to have lead phased out of everything. I mean, that's why the lithium, it's on a big push, because they got lead in them. So the lithium's going to eventually take over the lead acid batteries. And just like everything else, the wheel weights now, they're using them stick-on wheel weights, and most of them are steel. So steel or zinc.
Lithium batteries has usable lead in them?
No, the lead acid batteries.
Lead acid batteries, okay.
Yeah, the lithium are eventually going to take place of them. I mean, they're going to be non-existent or virtually non-existent.
So it's going to be
just
even
a matter of time.
So it's going to be even harder to get lead, you're saying, right?
It will. I guarantee it. I mean, you look at if you look at California, they're really big ban on not having lead sinkers in the water. They want you to use something else.
Yeah, they want you to use steel, or they want you to use
titanium.
Well, not titanium. What's the other stuff the ice fishing guys use? It's slipping my old memory here. Anyways, that stuff you can't pour. That stuff's got to be pressed. So
yeah.
Monty Sheets says, proud to announce that Brad is now a guard member pro staff. Happy to have him beside us.
Yep. Happy to be on board with you, Monty.
Cool. And what are the guard dogs? What product is that, Brad?
It's actually a automatic hook setting tool. It's actually made in the USA and distributed out of Indiana. So if you haven't watched any of Lance's shows, Lance uses them a lot. Every show that he's done in say almost a year, he's had them out. They're very nicely made, nice American-made products.
Yeah, that's a good thing, man. I'll stand behind anything that's made in America, definitely. As long as the money's staying here, that's a good thing. Not that I don't like any other country. If you guys are listening to me outside the United States, love y'all, definitely do. But, I like to see my brothers and sisters, make a buck and be able to feed their families and stuff. So well, congratulations on that. Did you say you had one of them to show us?
Yeah, I actually got one set up behind me here. I'll show it to you. It's pretty cool.
Go ahead and grab it. Creole said, man, a 12-ounce tungsten coin sinker would cost more than my rod. Tungsten, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, Uncle Lou said it first. Tungsten, that's the word. Yeah, I looked into tungsten jigs and stuff, and the only way to get that stuff done is to have it. I think they use pressure to make it. They press them. So I wanted to have, me and Brad have been talking a lot because I just bought a lead pot. So I'm going to be pouring some jig heads here pretty soon for myself. So let's see what you got there, Brad.
Okay. Try to get it to where everybody can see it.
Oh, I can give you a full screen. How about that?
Oh, cool. That'll work. This is the guard dog. For anybody who hasn't seen it yet, it'll try to give you a little closer up view. That way you can actually see it. It actually is stamped on it. made in the USA. This is actually an adjustable trigger. So if you're in heavier water, you can move it. So if you can set the tension and then set the trigger for it. So if you're in rougher waters, you can set it a little higher, or you can run it down, right? Or you can run it down a little lower, and each notch gives you an idea of where you can adjust it to and how much it's taken off as you're using it.
You know, I know some of the people here in chat, I'm going to take you off a solo here, right? Some of the people in chat here probably watch some of these survival channels like I do. I mean, I was just binge watching Fowler's Mystery and Adventure Show, whatever it's called. And, you know, in a SHTF, I believe is the word, situation, those would probably come in handy too, I imagine, right?
Yeah, they actually have a really good hookup ratio. I actually got to use them last week. I went out, and this lake's really known for having a real short bite, and usually if they hit it, it's one and done. And usually by the time that you see it, it's already too late. It'd be like Cody on 3+1 earlier when the planer boards kept getting hit, and that fish just couldn't take the bait, or the planer pulled it out of its mouth. This was actually setting up and hooking them before you'd ever even have to go to it. So it gives you time take and go reel in that fish, and it actually will set the hook for you even on the lightest bite, which in that place is really hard to get a couple off the bank, especially this time of year is really hard. But
well, can you use those on planer boards?
I haven't got to use them yet, so I don't want to say yes or no. Okay. But some of the boat stuff we're going to find out here as we go. I know there is people using them for trolling out on water off a boat, and having some very good success on them. So
yeah, my percentage of rates behind boards are pretty darn low compared to the ones right behind the boat. That's just the nature of the beast, you know. That planer board, it doesn't plant its foot, so to speak, like the rods that are right off the back that are in rod holders. So we'll get to do some trial and error on some dragging. We're going to set them a little heavy, and I'm going to try doing some dragging off of them, because I think it'd be pretty beneficial, because I know a lot of times when you drag, you get that short bite, and they may get the hook, but you'll just miss it just because you don't get there in the time that you need to be able to do your job of the portion of the catching the fish. So if you want, I'll set this up and I'll show everybody how it works. Sure. Yeah. Somebody's asking how do you rig them up? So Creole says, I think my buddy Michael uses them on his boat when anchored.
Yeah, you definitely use them on anchor. That's for sure. It'd be really easy to do. When I set these up outside for myself, when I did it, I actually use a tent stake, because I use PVC for mine, because I don't normally fish off the bank a lot. So for me to go out and spend a bunch of money on bank holders, eventually I'll probably do it, because I do fish off the bank. But for right now, I use a piece of PVC, drive it in the ground, and a good old-fashioned $1.50 tent stake from most of your general stores, your Myers, Walmarts. That's what I use. I use a stake with a lip on it, or I got some that's got a plastic clip, and the bottom of this line will actually go onto that. This goes up to the tip of your pole. So this is what this horn, as I call it, actually sits in your last eye. Okay. Your line will actually go through the horseshoe and sit here. So you'll have that line casted out. When you get it casted out, you can grab the rod, put it down, put the ear in it, set this down to the tent stake. And then this works as a lever to set your rod off to do the hook. And I'll show you how to do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think jaw jackers are pretty similar to those, so I'm pretty familiar with how that's set up.
Yeah. Those are ice fishing, aren't they?
They are for ice fishing, yep. In a lot of states, you can't even use them.
That's what I was wondering.
We got some arguing going on in chat here. Cool stuff. I'm big on the gear. I'm a gearhead, so anything new and exciting, I kind of get a kick out of checking out. So
I probably should have did this from the other side, but
If you guys are listening at home, Brian's setting up this guard dog in the back. He'll probably let us know where you can get one or where you can see one after he's got it set up. So just sit tight and we'll get you that information. Bugman's apparently has placed a couple of orders.
Oh yeah. What I like to do, I'll actually take this through the line and I'll actually set my line in the horseshoe as I go. And then I'll add tension to the rod. The string came off. It's like that thing about not having a stake in the ground. You get the right length. Try to get you.
Krill Catfishing says, Cody, what ends up happening is I'll set the hook, then the fish immediately yanks the rod down in protest. Yeah, that's a good feeling. And Monty says that the guard dogs are legal in every state but Minnesota. Good to know.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, Minnesota's pretty stringent. They take their wildlife to the extreme. I talked with Luke Henges quite a while about not being able to use bluegill for bait up there, and only a 1 rod limit too. That's kind of rough.
Yeah.
I control with 3 and not have to worry about it. Well, there you go. If you guys are listening at home, he's got it set up in his shop here. The rod's got an arc to it, and there's a line that goes down to what he's calling his rod holder, and he's got the device at the top eye of the rod with the line running through it.
Now I got this set up in the middle of the road, and it's just kind of for display purposes, so you'll actually be able to see it.
Okay.
It does actually adjust to where it is very, very light, but as you get it, it'll rip it right back, and
it works well.
Yeah, it's very effective. I actually got the tension string on hair too tight too, so I tried to get that rod tip down to where you guys could actually see it a little bit.
So, Brad, you got like an affiliate code or something, a discount code or something to pass along to people? How do they get one of those?
If you go to guarddogproducts.com, you can take and go in there and pick you up one. And I actually have a promo code, being pro staff with Guard Dog. It's Brad5. It'll save you some money.
There you go. That's BRAD and the number 5.
Yep. That thing always gets me every time because I'm never prepared for that release.
You know, I've seen guys using stuff like that with bells on them, and then bells go flying. That might be fun.
Yeah. Yep. I've watched a couple videos of people using them, and they have done that just because that swing stop to it, and them bells don't always hold very, very well. So
yeah, I do have a link to Tidel weights and sinkers for Brad, and I imagine you can get a hold of him through there. If you got any questions on how to get some of his weights and sinkers or the guard dog, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to send you in the right direction for those.
Oh yeah,
so, check out that.
Picking up a lot of vendors too, so you guys are going to start seeing a lot of your local bait shops and bait shop areas, and just mom and pop to some bigger chains going to start picking these up too. So we've got a hold of quite a bit of new vendors to actually carry these. So if you check on the website, on the Guard Dog website, we actually got a list of vendors going, so you're able to pick them up locally to you. So if you don't want to wait and you don't want to order them through the website. So, and
we're not to go too far back, but those are made out of aluminum, correct?
Yeah, they're made out of aluminum, 6061.
Oh, that's pretty heavy duty stuff. So
yeah, they're pretty dang strong. I'd be surprised if you can bend them.
If you're not throwing them in the river like someone we know, you'll have them for life, pretty much.
Hey, he might look into getting some because it might save him some rods, because he might be able to tie the rod in the rod holder.
There you go. Catfish, it says Brian. He's talking to Brian and Chet. He says, for those, you'd probably use a J hook with a little more tension. Do you use J hooks with those?
I haven't personally, but either hook style of work I've actually used. I was using circle hooks the other day on them, and I figured if they're going to have an issue setting a hook on anything, it'd be a J hook or a circle hook.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the motion is on it, it's so smooth when you actually have tension out on it, and you don't got like I had it oversprung, and I know I did, but for the space and trying to get it into view and everything, but it set the J hooks better than I could have set them myself. So
cool. I use J hooks and circle hooks, so those would be kind of cool. I don't bank fish so much, but I don't see why they wouldn't work well anchored though.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're a live streamer too, I can see how that would help you not have to pay attention to those lines as much too. So
yeah, if you're busy rebaiting another rod and your back's turned to it when you're cutting up bait or trying to re-rig a line. I mean, I've watched countless times of people use them, and I'm a firm believer that they're gonna catch you more fish by using them. And you know, for the price point of, you know, they're about $20. I mean, I've wasted more than $20 in a week about every week. So
$20 is worth not missing a fish. That's for sure.
Oh yes.
I want to give a shout out to Justin's Fishing Fetish. He's been a member for 12 months. He says, great show tonight. Thank you very much. I would highlight that, Justin, but StreamYard doesn't allow me to do that for the member milestone. So thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Anything else you want to say, Brad? We're coming up with just over an hour here. I had a good time talking to you tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to plug or mention before we call it a night?
Yeah. Just get out there and do some fishing, and most of all, have fun. You know, some of these new products that people are coming out with, they're not really meant to change the way you're fishing. They're meant to improve on what you're already doing. So
100%. I couldn't agree more. Let's see. What do I got? I will be this Thursday night on Panfish Nation. I'm going to get those rules posted up for the Panfish Nation Championship Tournament. Round 1 is going to be on my channel. April 30th, I believe, is what the date is. You can check my channel for that. Get involved, get in there. We still got plenty of openings for that first day. And if you are in the top 2 of that, you advance to the championship. So it's going to be a lot of fun for everybody. We're having four events. If you don't get in on the first one, you can always get in on one of the other dates that are happening throughout the summer. I think we're ending it sometime in October. We haven't decided on a date yet. So if you don't win on my first round, you can go to round 2. I think it's either on Chad or Josh's or Dockery's channel. I think it's on Chad's channel, the second one. You can re-enter and you can up your chance to get into the championship. It's going to be a lot of fun. So
that's pretty cool.
Other than that, I want to say hello to Catfish Stalker Outdoors with Captain Greg Olie. What's up, Captain Greg? How you doing, bud? He says, awesome show. Thank you, Captain Greg. I got to get him on my show, definitely. Been meaning to ask him for a long time. LG Bash is a great show, too. All right, everybody. Well, I look forward to getting out there on the water in the next week or so. Keep an eye out if you are a channel member. I will go live for you guys, at least for a little while I'm out there trying to make a video. Or you guys can watch me tuning in my live scope like a big dummy because I have no idea what I'm doing here. It might be humorous to watch. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure the bell notification's rung. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I appreciate you. Thanks again, Brad.
Dave, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Sit tight. Good night, everybody.